April 22, 2024, Yukon, Oklahoma. A quiet cul-de-sac, a beautiful suburban home, the kind of neighborhood where kids ride bikes and neighbors wave good morning. At 9:30 a.m., a 10-year-old boy stumbles out of his bedroom, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. The box fan in his room had drowned out the chaos of the night, but the silence now was different, too still, too cold. He walks into the hallway, then into the living room, and there it is, his mother, his 3 older brothers, his father, all lying in pools of blood. He's the only one left alive. Shaking, he calls 911. "I think my whole family is dead. I don't know what happened. Please help." When police arrived, they stepped into what one officer would later call a scene from a horror movie. 5 bodies, 4 murdered, 1, Jonathan Candy, dead by suicide, and 1 child spared, the only witness, the only survivor. Just hours before, everything had seemed normal. Jonathan Candy had been working at the Paycom Center during an NBA playoff game. His co-workers remember him cracking jokes, smiling, acting like the all-American dad everyone knew him to be. At home, 39-year-old Lindsay Candy had tucked her sons into bed. Dylan, 18, Ethan, 14, Lucas, 12. Their youngest, the 10-year-old, was already asleep with a fan humming next to his bed. But something shifted that night. Neighbors didn't hear gunshots, just the faint beep of a smoke alarm. The youngest child remembered that sound but fell back asleep. Authorities would later find the bodies of Lindsay, Dylan, Ethan, and Lucas, each shot, each seemingly ambushed. 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs. Jonathan Candy was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. No note, no warning, just silence, and a single unanswerable question: why? To outsiders, the Candy family was the epitome of joy. Jonathan and Lindsay were high school sweethearts. He was goofy and warm. She was vibrant, always the loudest cheerleader at her kids' games. Their Facebook pages showed birthday cakes, Halloween costumes, and beach trips. Smiles everywhere. Nothing that hinted at tragedy. Dylan had just finished his freshman year at Oklahoma Baptist University. A gifted drummer, full of energy and kindness. He'd earned his place on the prestigious Bison Brigade. His band director described him as a light in the room. Ethan, 14, was Mustang North's rising baseball star. Everyone called him Candyman. His coach said he had a contagious smile and a competitive fire. His best friends were shattered. Lucas, only 12, was the baby of the trio, playful, bright, always tagging along during his older brother's games. He just won his school's spelling bee. And Lindsay? Lindsay was sunshine. She'd sing in church choirs, throw surprise parties. Her childhood best friend, Cammie Cruz, said, "She lit up every room. Her boys adored her." The surviving 10-year-old, whose name is withheld for privacy, was her youngest. And now, the only one left to carry their memory. If this first part disturbed you as much as it disturbed us, consider commenting below. Do you believe a person can just snap? Or is there always a hidden buildup? The crime scene was pristine, too pristine. There were no signs of forced entry, no struggle, no defensive wounds. 2 bodies were found upstairs, 2 more downstairs, each one shot execution style. Authorities determined the murder weapon was a handgun, legally owned by Jonathan Candy. The shots were deliberate, methodical, not rushed. Lindsay Candy, 39, was killed first, likely while asleep or just waking up. Her wounds showed no attempt to flee. 18-year-old Dylan, 14-year-old Ethan, and 12-year-old Lucas were found in different parts of the house. None of them appeared to have resisted. It was as if they were caught off guard, ambushed by the very man who kissed them goodnight hours earlier. The final body was Jonathan himself, shot through the head. A textbook murder-suicide. But then, there's the boy, the youngest, the 10-year-old, left unharmed. No attempt to hurt him, no attempt to silence him, just spared. And that's what investigators couldn't shake. Why him? Why only him? At first, no one wanted to believe it. Neighbors, co-workers, even close friends. Everyone refused to accept that Jonathan Candy could do something so horrific. He was the guy who helped mow lawns, fix neighbors' sprinklers, told corny dad jokes. This isn't the man we knew. But the evidence didn't lie. Jonathan's phone history was searched. No suspicious internet searches. No manifesto. No farewell messages. There was no history of domestic violence. No CPS reports. No signs of past aggression. But one detail emerged. Hours before the murders, neighbors had reported raised voices. An argument, possibly between Jonathan and Lindsay. Had something snapped? Dr. Joni Johnston, a forensic psychologist consulted by authorities, said the scene defied typical patterns. In most murder-suicides, everyone in the home is killed, including the youngest. Sparing one child was highly irregular. Some theorized he may have killed Lindsay in a sudden fit of rage, and then, in a moment of guilt or fear, decided he couldn't leave the other children behind, except the youngest. Maybe he thought the youngest wouldn't remember. Or maybe he loved him too much. Or maybe he just couldn't pull the trigger a fifth time. We'll never know. The massacre may have seemed spontaneous, but something had been brewing. Authorities began to look deeper into Jonathan's life. Was he dealing with financial pressure? Was he mentally unwell? Had he been hiding depression behind that perfect smile? The Paycom Center confirmed he worked part-time, just enough to get by, but not enough to support a family of 6. Lindsay was a stay-at-home mom. It's unclear whether they had debts, but financial stress was likely. Then came whispers from relatives. Jonathan had been quiet lately, distant. The timeline began to piece together. Evening, Jonathan works at an NBA game, laughing with colleagues. Late night, an argument breaks out at home. Early morning, the smoke alarm goes off briefly, possibly triggered by the gunshots. Morning, the youngest child wakes up and discovers the bodies. There was no suicide note, no explanation, just a trail of blood and a single child left to carry the weight of that night. If he was struggling, why didn't he say anything? How can someone pretend for so long and then just do this? We're left with those questions and no answers. What makes a man, seemingly loving, devoted, ordinary, turn into a destroyer of his own blood? Experts struggled with this one. There was no clear answer, no diagnosis, no warning signs, no cries for help. But beneath Jonathan Candy's friendly persona, something may have been silently unraveling. Dr. Joni Johnston, the forensic psychologist called in to analyze the crime, explained how high-functioning depression can mask itself behind a smiling, helpful exterior. These individuals often perform perfectly on the outside, while a silent storm brews internally. Jonathan may have been overwhelmed by unspoken pressures, financial strain, marital tension, a possible identity crisis as a provider, and then the possibility that he saw no way out. He might have viewed his family as an extension of himself. If he believed he was failing, he may have deluded himself into thinking they'd be better off dead than without him. But what about the 10-year-old? That's what makes this case even more disturbing. Because if this was a calculated act of self-destruction, sparing the youngest son feels intimate, emotional. Did Jonathan look into his eyes and see innocence he couldn't destroy? Or was the boy simply asleep, overlooked, and spared by chance? He loved his kids, neighbors said. You could see it. So why? Some believe Jonathan only planned to kill Lindsay, that maybe in the heat of an argument, a fatal mistake happened, and then panic took over. But others argue this was a premeditated family annihilation, a twisted logic where love, shame, and control blended into a final act of domination. A father who couldn't bear losing control of his home, so he silenced it forever. In the aftermath of this horror, only one small voice remains, the voice of a boy who survived. The child now lives with extended family. Social workers and trauma counselors are helping him try to make sense of what happened. But how do you explain something like this to a 10-year-old? How do you begin to process waking up one day and your whole family is gone? How do you begin to process waking up one day and your whole family is gone? He stepped out of his room and walked into a massacre, said one officer. That image will live with him forever. The community in Yukon, Oklahoma came together in an outpouring of grief. Vigils were held. A memorial fund was launched. Dylan's drumline left his bass drum untouched as a tribute. Ethan's teammates wept on the field, dedicating a bench in his name. Lucas's classmates left notes and drawings by the school fence. Everyone was shattered. But no one more than the boy who had to make that 911 call. "I want to wake up from this," one of Lindsay's friends wrote. "I want this to be a bad dream, but it isn't. And the reality is this: one night, one father, 4 bullets, and a lifetime of healing left for the one child he didn't kill." This wasn't just a crime, it was a rupture. A moment that cut through the illusion of the perfect family and exposed the dark truth about how little we really know, even about the people closest to us. So what do you think? Was this a moment of madness or something far more calculated? Tell us in the comments, and if you believe stories like this should never be forgotten, hit subscribe and stay with us. There are more stories coming, some even darker than this one.